Hello there. My name is Anne Greer, and I'm hoping that we're going to be really good friends over the next little while because I'm starting this channel, Unbounded Lives, with the deep expectation that we can create a community, both nationally and internationally, both in Australia and outside, to really build excitement about the idea that people with disabilities could have a very different lives, and oh my God, so could their families. I am so dedicated to the idea that what we are doing now is so lacking in innovation, so lacking in understanding about the humanness of people with disability, so lacking in understanding about the capacity people have to have a life as much like ours and their brothers and sisters as possible. And I'm really, really keen to share what I know about that with you all, and for you to share with me your own experiences, and maybe even your fears and worries, and maybe even your challenges. This is the first edition of Unbounded Lives. I can't tell you how excited I am to be doing this with you because I'm really feeling the need at the moment more than ever, for us to understand what is truly possible for people. I have been, and you need to know this about me, I do not understand or agree with the concept of intellectual disability. I think the way we measure capacity is so frighteningly terrible, that I have no understanding of how we could possibly come to the idea that people have got intellectual disabilities, despite what our eyes tell us. I've used that, I've worked with people now for 35 years. I have never, ever had to worry about their IQ as a way to work out what we would do. I got into this work because I have two very adult children now with disabilities and one child without. And so the middle child was bracketed by two young people at the time who had very, very big disabilities, but very different ones. And so my life started when I was thinking pretty much that I liked the special world. I really thought that the special world had things to offer our family. But pretty soon I got very disenchanted because I kept looking at the ways that people offered things. And I started to work out that even really lovely people that you really like, people who've got expertise and skills and, letters after their name, can still be telling you things that don't fit for you or your family. And so, because I've always been one of those people who thought for myself, I started to work on what else could be possible. I was very fortunate as a young parent, and I was a very young parent, to have people around me who were much older, who'd had babies, and who guided me and supported me and helped me through my, crazy 20s when I was really trying to work out how to be a mother or even just to be a woman. And so there were people there that were just so powerful at helping me understand what the life was that I wanted and the life that I didn't want. And so in our family, I was pretty keen on the idea of not just surviving, but flourishing. And so I started to try and work on my own life as well as on the life of my children, to make sure that we were all doing okay. And of course the middle child as well, which is always a bit of a challenge. And if I hadn't had my mum, who was truly the most supportive person to me of anyone I've ever known, except for the kid's dad, even though we weren't together anymore, those two people were the pillars that actually made sure that all the children grew up to be the people they are today. It's an extraordinary kind of story. That's a story for another day. So we were there, we were trying to work on flourishing, but can I tell you, if you're sitting there at the moment thinking, all right for you, Missy, but I can't flourish, I'm just sitting here in this terrible life I'm having, then I have to say to you that there were decades when we weren't flourishing, not just months or years, decades when we were not actually getting everything that we needed when those children were young. But over time, some things happened that really made a difference for me. I got into service provision in all sorts of different ways. And through that, I got exposed to a lot of ideas and concepts that were counter to what was being offered at that time. And that made a big difference to me. The opportunity to kind of hear from people who were doing different kinds of things, have people from overseas come and be able to go there and not only listen to them in a formal setting, but go out to dinner and talk to people about what was happening in other places. And just to start to really understand how much I wanted my kids to have the most ordinary life possible and how little I trusted that congregated world. So when I got to service provision, the most amazing thing was that my first job in service provision was coordinating a service for 5 people who had very, very big disabilities. profound disabilities and big behaviour. And so, ably abetted by Crew, community resource unit, who was in its baby stages at that point, I might add, we started to develop a service around each individual person. And can I say, this is one of the things that I want us to really be thinking about on this channel. How can we stop thinking about a service model and start thinking about who is my child? Who is the person that brought me here? What do they want? What do they need? What are their ambitions and thoughts about the world? And so this is a very revolutionary way of thinking. And so in my mind, what this does is ask us to move away from the concept of client, that is subservient to services, and into a world of citizenship where the supports that people need are supporting the life they're actually aspiring to, not actually supporting a person in a day-to-day wandering around the world in some kind of disability tourism where people never really get to be learning anything, getting connected to other people who haven't got disabilities. I see people in my town going out one-on-one with a person, so the person and the services being paid for an individual support, getting together, down the Strand or other places for lunch, because this is like socialization for the person, as opposed to actually putting the really hard work in trying to find a place and space for this person to have a life of their own. Big challenges, hey? So I think that this is what I'm asking of you is to get out of that kind of mindset and start thinking about a different kind of life for yourself and for the person you live with or the person you love who brought you here. And I think this is very hard, isn't it, for the person who's the carer. By the way, I don't like any C words, client, carer, that one we never speak of, or any others. I don't use those words. I don't think they're helpful in what we're trying to do. I think that it's a much more active job than caring when we're working with, a family who's actually got a child who doesn't sleep, who doesn't really have any understanding yet of the world. And in fact, the support that people get, families and individuals, is often with people who have no idea either. And this is one of the things that stuns me, because all of the theory and all of the things that we have with us at the moment are 30 years old. We don't really have any new ideas or any thoughts. And actually, in this country, in Australia, when the National Disability Insurance Scheme came along, what we did was we took the old concepts, the things that we were doing before that weren't working, and we put them back into this new system, and we wondered why it didn't fit. And so now what we're trying to do, what the NDIS is trying to do, is to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's a bit of a problem, because this new world was really pushing the concept of innovation, wasn't it? Remember at the beginning of that, when people were talking about their lives and the things that they were already doing and the things they could do if they had the opportunity through the NDIS. And so that brings me to the concept of funding. Just have a little drink. Those of us who've been around for a long time know that the level of funding you need is absolutely crucial to make sure that the person can get what they need. We know that. But those of us who've been around for a long time have also seen people who get 2-on-1 support during the day, that is 2 workers to 1 person, and maybe even during the night or an active shift, whose lives cannot seem to be kind of improved. So while money is absolutely crucial to what we're trying to achieve here, using money creatively, trying to work out how to get the best bang for your buck, these are the things that we need to be doing better. And the NDIS tried to encourage that at first, then they got frightened of the idea that people might be working outside the purview of what they had decided the NDIS was about. And so the idea of trying to create a world and trying to work out how to fund it, these are things I think that we need to be bringing back to all the funders all across the world. We need to be showing people how to make a different life for people with disability and their families. So let's talk about families for a little minute. In my family, for a long time, I was very Velcroed, particularly to my youngest child, who was the person who had the really serious kind of questions and challenges. And when I was talking about him, or when I was thinking about him, it was a very scary thing that actually he and I were Velcroed together. I would talk about the fact that we had to go to hospital. We'd had a status episode. We were on new medication, I know all these parents, there's many of you there who will be thinking, that's me, that's me. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that, baby. But we have to understand that if we do not de-velcro ourselves and start to think about our own lives and what we need to do for ourselves, what we're going to be finding ourselves in is a situation where this person is 50 and we're still convinced we are the only person who knows anything about that person. So the idea of opening up our world, and I hear you all around the world going, oh, very, very nice. That's very interesting. I can't even get my family to help me. Totally get it. Had the same experience in many parts of my life too. But we need to actually task ourselves with this job. Because if we don't find a way to get our own lives back into gear, we will not be able to find a way for our sons and daughters to get a life of their own. That's the truth. And in our own family, Belle's dad, who is the most, should be getting an award for the most fabulous father in the world, and I might ask him to come on here sometime and talk about this. He was convinced, because he was actually the person living with Valen, the primary person, for want of a better word, although we were all doing our bit. But that little world got smaller and smaller. And so by the time we actually got the funding for our son to have a life of his own, and for John to have a life of his own, John was firmly convinced that Val would not live more than 6 months without him being there. He was totally committed to Val, he wanted to make sure that he, had the best life possible, but he couldn't even work that out for himself, because it is too hard to do that when you actually are in this situation where you can't get outside a certain number of hours of support a week, or you can't get out of the mindset that says no one else can do this. I'm very happy, and so is he, I think, to tell you, 3 years later, our son is having a wonderful life. It's been an amazing opportunity for both of them. So his dad's out fishing every day. He's got mates. He goes out with people. They go up north to Lucinda and all sorts of places to fish overnight. Life is very different for his dad. And actually for Valen, life is very different too, because while he had 9 to 5 support, he had a pretty good opportunity to go out and do things from 9 to 5. But at 5 o'clock he came home. They didn't have a car. And so he was there by himself with his dad, with just nothing but listening to 80s music. And so life really, really scrunched in for both of them. Now Val's out most nights, going for a walk along the Strand, walking the dogs for one of the people that supports him. He's got a great team, 3 people who really, really care about him. I don't think since that team started that his dad or I have had to actually go there and do a shift ever since that happened. So these are really important things to be thinking about, aren't they? About how we would actually create the life we want for ourselves. And the fact that a good life for ourselves means that we can actually be more useful in a different way to our children. So I'd like to say to you, it hasn't been an easy ride. Not for Val, not for his dad, not for me, not for his 2 sisters. We've all been in that kind of washing machine where things went well for a while or they were bad, then the washing machine would stop and you'd think, oh my God, it's okay, it's finished, and it would just be moving it in a different direction. So I don't want you to be thinking that this is coming to you from this, white middle class smart aleck who's, got the money and the opportunities to make this happen. I have most certainly never had the money. We are not a family that's got a great resource behind us, a financial resource. But we have actually had a pretty powerful view about what we wanted for ourselves. And I think we've all led that in different ways. And so the thing I think that is really powerful too, in trying to design and co-design your own life with that of your adult children, whether they've got disabilities or not really, I think, is to start to understand the power of expectation. That if you think that this person can't do anything, you're damn right. That's exactly what will happen. Expectation is so important. And if you fall into the trap of thinking that the IQ that someone's designated for your son or daughter to have, which, by the way, is absolute garbage, if that's what's happening for you, then you are doomed to never really get where you need to go with this person. Because what we've done with the concept of intellectual disability has meant that people never ever get the opportunities. We don't go, oh my goodness, this person got an IQ score of 5 years 5 years, 6 months, 7 days, 25 minutes, 40 seconds, and 32 nanoseconds, we don't go, oh my God, we need to really help this child develop and grow. What are we doing that we could do differently to help this person manage that kind of, that and up the score, if that's what you're really into? No, what we do is give people Thomas the Tank Engine. Or people for the rest of their lives are listening to children's, morning television without ever being able to break that cycle, because we're not really thinking that the person could need that. But can I say, the expectation that a person will grow up, mature, and have a life outside ourselves is actually fundamental to what I'm saying here. I'm not saying that you can ever disengage. If you think this is a get out of jail clause for you, baby, forget it. It's not going to happen that way. You're always going to have to be available. And maybe the subject of one of these talks will be about what happens when we're not available. What happens when we can't do this? Because it's a big question for me too. And then, so there's expectation, and then there's opportunity. And so one of the things that is really powerful about this different kind of way of working is to be opportunistic about what's available for the person. And this is something that we've done quite a few times in our support to Val and to his sister. You've got to think, that's an opportunity. Let's see what we can do with that. So an example of this is when Jane, our eldest daughter, was about 22. Margaret Rogers, who's now the director of Crew in Brisbane, was working in Cairns, north of Townsville, and she invited Jane to come to talk to a lot of families about her life. Now, Jane's life wasn't extraordinary. She's not the director of a kindergarten or a model or any of those things you see people with Down syndrome, doing in their lives. She was just having a really ordinary life, catching the bus, going to TAFE, getting a job, that kind of stuff. So my mum, who is a bit of a person that could be, we'll all be ruined, said hand in hand before the drought is out, said to me, how can Jane going to do that? How's she going to do it? I can't understand a word she says. Jane is profoundly deaf. And I said, we were going to find a way. I don't know yet, but she is going, oh yes, she is. And so Jane got the opportunity to go to Cairns and to present to those families. And what we did was we used this, this is before data projectors, 2 overhead projectors. I went through all her photographs with her. She picked the ones she wanted to talk about. She told me what she wanted to say. So she had the microphone, she had the photographs, and I had the other overhead projector with an interpretation of what Jane said for those people in the audience who couldn't understand it. Well, can I say, I think that Jane had a profound effect on families that day. A, because she was talking about ordinary things that most of those people didn't do. Learning to manage your money, learning to catch buses, 2 buses sometimes, getting a job, blah, 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 blah. But the other thing that was profound was that other young people in the room worked out that if you had photographs, you could get the microphone and be at the front. And so when Jane finished, all these young people came up with photos and put them on the overhead projector and spoke into the microphone to tell us about their lives. That was a powerful moment for me. Where are the role models for people with disability? Where are the people going to work, getting on the bus, doing all the things that other people do, to whatever level that person's able to manage? It doesn't have to be that people turn out to be, a brains trust. I think in France at the moment, one of the politicians is actually a person with Down syndrome. We don't have to aspire to that if we don't want to, nor do our children. Not our other children have all different levels of aspiration. But what we do have to aspire to is the option that means that most people will not be going to some kind of clapped out, old-fashioned day program where we have never been to check to make sure that that is actually what we think it is. People will not be getting herded into group homes of any number. We will not have people talking on email who are paid to work with people telling us about a vacancy in a group home that somebody could get fitted into. Because all of these things so lack any kind of innovative thinking, any kind of expectation, and absolutely no opportunity. I was going to swear then. It was very difficult for me not to do that. No opportunity to actually see themselves or their sons and daughters in a different life. Not okay. Now, can I just say right here, if your son or daughter is in a day program or a group home, this is not a judgment on you. Not a judgment on you or what you are able to offer at all. Just understanding, as I do and you do, that the prevailing opportunities are in those places and spaces. They are not in this other world where it's a bit equivalent to having to bash your way through a bush and not even having any kind of implement to cut out the stuff and not having a map about where we're going. So it's not surprising that most people will opt for what they know. They can see it, they can smell it, they can feel it, they can understand what that is. The world I'm talking about is not like that. It should be, but it ain't. So that's where we're going to be playing with each other, hopefully, all the time now, to talk about these things and building a community that's got a lot of energy, excitement, and oh my God, the other thing we need, skill. Because if I could say one of the most lacking things in our world right now is a level of skill to understand who are the people with disability that we are supporting. Who are they and what do they need? It's not like the one size fits all. I have done work now for millions of years, feels like it, with people. It is extraordinary what you can do when you're really thinking through who is this person and what do we need to help this person move along, grow and develop, all those kinds of things. Now that concept is a developmental model. A developmental model comes from the idea that even if a person has been disdained as having a profound disability, that person can still grow and enjoy life. It doesn't have to be that you have to be sitting here in one spot, doing whatever. And so I think that this is one of the hardest things because we don't have people with these skills. We don't have enough of them. And so one of the things I'm hoping to offer on this channel is the opportunity for both families, people with disability themselves if they want, and the people who are tasked with supporting them, either formally or informally, to actually understand more about how to create a developmental model, one where we work with the person, not on the person, where the person is in charge, but we are there to help create a framework and a scaffolding for choice and control and all the things that young person might need to do, or older, in order to build the best life possible. There's a few other things. I think I'd like to talk to you about the theories of disability because there's quite a few and they are really amazing. Unfortunately, they're over 35 years old. We don't see much coming through that's new. But the things that we'll be talking about on this channel and the things that guide my thinking and the way I've worked all these years are social role valorization. I won't explain it now. You can look it up. The 5 frameworks for accomplishment. So social role valorization came from a man called Wolfensberger, American. The 5 frameworks for accomplishment came from John O'Brien and Connie Lyle. There's a whole range of stuff around movement difference and sensory overload from Anne Donlan and Martha Lira. There's the Institute for Applied Behavioural Analysis, which has a very technical version of how we provide behaviour support and build behaviour plans, but that is technology with values. And so these things have all been things that I've been, kind of working using those kinds of theories. And I think when you've got those theories to work on, a framework for the work, these are the things that we need to be really looking at and understanding, and maybe we should be building some new frameworks and new theories. So, yes, I think that'll be enough for today. That should bloom a lot. So I'm really looking forward to us working together, and I'm hoping that you will subscribe to this channel, share it with all your friends, all the people that you know in disability, maybe some people outside disability. It should be the biggest community that we can possibly create. And in your comments, as time goes on and we build that community, I'll be reading those comments, and I'm very, very keen to either deliver you some information that I already have or get someone to talk to us about stuff that I don't know enough about to present. So thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Welcome to the new world of Unbounded Lives. Can't wait to get to know you. Bye.